Welcome to another inspiring episode of the Elite Expert Insider Podcast. Hosts Melanie Johnson and Jenn Foster are the owners of Elite Online Publishing. They're both Wall Street Journal, USA Today best-selling authors. We're really glad you're here because this podcast was designed for you. Meet industry experts that share their secrets and strategies. Get successful results for your business in money, relationships, health, and your life. Each episode is going to inspire you to take action towards reaching your greatness.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another great podcast. I'm Melanie Johnson, your host, along with Jenn Foster. Hey, Jenn, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How is everyone today?
I hope you're having a fantastic week so far. All right, we are just so thrilled to have Maximilian Wühr. He is one of the 5 co-founders of Finn. I don't know if you've heard of Finn, but you're probably going to hear of it soon. It's a German company that allows customers to rent cars for monthly subscriptions. I'm so fascinated by this. Plus, he raised $110 million in equity expansion. He's into technology, innovation, disruption. We're going to learn so much from him today about starting a company, running a company, and what a hackathon is. So stay tuned. Max, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk to you.
Max, tell us a little bit how you got into cars and doing the subscription model.
Yeah, I actually never thought that I would actually get into automotive. So I have a background in economics, did a little bit of private equity and VC investing, but really fell in love with building companies. So I have done this across multiple industries, was the first employee at a couple of startups, and really fell in love with building something from scratch. Did that in healthcare, did that in manufacturing, did that in construction. And at some point I wanted to start a company on my own. And I actually didn't pick automotive, but there were a couple of coincidences that ultimately brought us to that business model and brought us together also as co-founders. So one of my co-founders was really excited about doing something in automotive, and I didn't understand that excitement at first. But when I started thinking about it, when I started thinking about my own experiences buying my first car on the West Coast, it was actually something that really resonated with me, because back then I didn't have any clue about cars. I didn't know what to look out for. I didn't know that basically everybody that I had contact with back then tried to scam me ultimately. And so it wasn't the easiest experience, but it's something that motivates me to this day. And I think like also part of the problem that we want to solve, where we want to offer really easy access to mobility that is seamless, digital, that you can do from your phone in less than 3 minutes, order a car, get it delivered to your doorstep, and then simply start driving, because we took care of all the things that are typically hassle, like insurance, registration, paying taxes, maintenance, all these things that you don't want to think about.
Well, and you don't have to do the good cop, bad cop thing when you're going to buy a car. You know, you have the good guy and the bad guy, and they go back and forth and haggle the price for a while. And you're there for 5 hours.
You don't have to hire FBI trained negotiation coach to get your next vehicle. Exactly.
So walk us through how Finn really works. So do you have a fleet of cars like a Hertz rental car would, and then people are picking for there? Or is it more like a Turo and it's individuals who already own cars that are adding them to your fleet and they're renting that way? Is it month to month? Do they sign up for a 6-month subscription? Kind of how does all of that work?
Absolutely. So we buy the cars from OEMs, so from the manufacturers, and from dealerships. So we partner together with the existing ecosystem, buy these vehicles, and then you simply get a consumer that signs up for a 6 or 12-month subscription. And after that subscription, we basically return the car either to a dealership or to the manufacturer directly. And so we typically have a very high utilization across our fleet, meaning that most of the cars that we have on our balance sheet that we actually own are typically in usage and are driving around across the US, across Germany.
Now, do they have to put money down? Do they have to put a deposit down for the car? Like you do, you know, when you buy a car, you have to put so much money down, or lease a car before you can do that. Is there a deposit?
There is no money down. There is a deposit if you don't have a certain creditworthiness, then you might have to put 1 or 2 monthly rents down, but there is no down payment, no kind of like advance that you typically have with leases or with buying a car.
And what is the price point? So is it similar to leasing a car or rent, having a monthly loan on a car, or how does that work?
So it's very similar to leasing a new car. So basically, when you go out to look for leasing offers, if you look at your all-in costs, so basically once you add insurance, once you add maintenance, once you add repairs, paying taxes, like all these things, we are typically in the same ballpark. And I would say we are quite affordable. We have different vehicles, and according to the vehicle, of course, according to the model that you actually pick, you pay different monthly rates. And in that monthly rate, already everything is included, but gas, but charging, which is obviously something that you have to pay yourself for. But yeah, monthly rates starting at $499, going up to $1,200, $1,300 a month.
Starting a new company like this is daunting. It reminds me, I watched the movie of how Uber started, and, how do you even begin, right? You've got to get funding. You've got to get all these employees. Did you start with funding and just an idea? Kind of walk us through that whole process of getting started.
The most important thing is having great people around you. I want to say having a great team, but it's in the beginning, it's very few people. It's not really a team yet. So having a couple of people that you trust, that you work together with really, really well, that balance each other out, that have different skills, is, I think, the most important aspect. And that already makes it a lot easier, because ultimately, specifically in these early days, but still now, you need to take a lot of no's. And so you get a lot of rejection. It's a little bit like dating, where you go on to 400 dates until you find the one. And that's basically also a little bit around an entrepreneurship, where you get a lot of no's until you finally get to the yes. And along the way, everybody tells you what you're doing doesn't work. It's impossible. It's not feasible. And some of that feedback is very valid. So also always look for the feedback that is applicable and where people might be actually onto something. But you also got to believe in ultimately the insight that you have into why you started this company and the pain point. Like, always think back of my experiences. I think about the consumer experiences that we actually are able to improve. And that is something that is really motivating me and that keeps me going.
Well, and tell us a little bit about how did you actually start? Did you start with the funding? So after you get all the people, then what?
Yeah, then you need to get some money, exactly, because otherwise it's going to be a very sad group of people that cannot afford this for a very long time. So that was also something that was fairly straightforward for us. I worked at a VC firm before that. One of my co-founders started a couple of businesses before that. The other co-founders had a specific experience that was applicable to the challenge that we wanted to solve. So we were able to convince investors quite quickly in terms of giving us some money. But then the obligations really start, because you make promises to them. You say, hey, in a year, we will have that many customers. And then you sit there and you don't have anything and you need to get going. You make a list. Okay, these are the 120 things that we need to do before we can serve the first customer. And then you get going, you hire more people, and you're growing the business. But getting that first investment also needs ultimately a really good story. So why should people care about what you're doing? Typically, nobody has waited for you. Nobody is out there, oh, when does Max finally come along with his great idea? No, you really need to convince them. You need to get them excited. And you need to, on the one hand side, explain why the problem really matters, but also the opportunity that is behind that.
Right. And I really like how this company that you've started, you were out of the box thinking, right? Like, it's a disruptor. Like, it's something that is opposite of how the process works now, right? So I really love how it's a disruptor in the industry, kind of similar to Uber or any of those.
I would say it's a very different user experience. So for you as a consumer, I would say it's a disruptor. I think what is very important to me and has been from day one is ultimately we want to be a partner. We don't want to destroy other companies. We want to partner with them, and we want to make sure that different companies have different strengths. And for me, it's very important that you ultimately improve life for the consumer, that you make people's lives better. And to do that, you can also rely on different partners. So we partner very closely with dealerships when it comes to maintenance, when it comes to repairs, when it comes to delivering the vehicles. We partner closely with OEMs because we don't want to manufacture the vehicle ourselves. And so I think it's very important that you leverage the different strengths people have. I think it also helps to be very clear about what we bring to the table and what they bring to the table. So also don't sell yourself short, but know what you are good at. And then I think that is a good mix.
And then you mentioned you're mission oriented. So what makes you mission oriented and why is that important for a company to have that?
So how we think about mission orientation is that everybody at the company should be clear and guided, focused towards a clear mission that they have. So ultimately, if I'm working at Finn, I should have a very clear mission of that is my goal, that's my objective, that's what I want to achieve over the next couple of weeks. And so having that mission is the first aspect that already gives a lot of clarity and a lot of focus. But then on the next step, you also need to have all the resources to achieve these missions. And that's oftentimes where companies fall apart, where there's a lot of infighting, where there's a back and forth. Oh, I haven't been able to achieve that because I didn't get the support from engineering that I needed. And so for us, it was very important to enable people to work autonomously, to take over responsibility, to deliver a clear outcome by themselves, to develop a clear sense of ownership for a specific area. And that's why we focused very much on putting engineering everywhere, but also enabling everybody to build automations, to build processes, to build technology applications by themselves to ultimately solve problems for the consumer.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the tech part of it. You said it's a very user-friendly. How did you get into that and know how to build the app or whatever like that?
So I did it a couple of times before with different companies where we kind of looked at ultimately how can we solve this problem for a consumer? How should the user experience look like? How does the UI look like? But ultimately, I think coming from empathy and trying to understand what is the problem that you are trying to solve and what is really essential to the problem and what isn't. Because one thing that I often see founders doing is kind of try to build a little bit of everything. Yeah. And that doesn't work. You cannot build a super app from scratch. You cannot build kind of the functionality around food delivery, about getting from A to B, for example, that the Uber app currently has. You cannot do that from scratch. They started with a very straightforward and simple application, and then you layer more and more functionality on top. But you should start with the essential part and be also very clear on why this is better than the status quo.
Yeah, I want to dive into a little bit more about the automation and empowering employees to figure out automation to solve problems and to achieve their goals. How do you do that? And then I really want to have you explain what a hackathon is and the story that you have around that.
Absolutely. So I think the most important thing is kind of mindset and letting people know that they can do it. So the most often I hear people saying, oh, I'm not a techie. I'm not able to build something. I'm not able to automate this. And this is actually plain wrong. If you really set your mind to it, it might take you a lot longer than it might take an engineer. But typically, if you have a problem, you might be able to figure out a solution that might not be the perfect one, that might not be scalable to 1 million users, but something that works quite well. And so I have a very strong opinion that actually automations and kind of technical processes can be built by everybody. There's a lot of no-code and low-code tooling out there. For example, tools like make.com or Zapier, where you can really put together different resources, different inputs, and then build a smart automation that is making sure that you have less repetitive things to do, that you have more fun in your job and more meaningful work and don't have as much repetitive tasks on your plate. And so really everybody can operate these. And so we really try to instill this mindset of everybody is able to do so. And so 1.5 weeks ago, we actually had a hackathon that was organized in the US by Cornelius, one of the people who basically work full-time on these automations. So he's actually an expert on crafting these automations. And so he organized a great hackathon in the US. A ton of people participated, a ton of non-tech people that never built automations before. And also the team that then won, there was only one techie in there. And the rest were non-techie people that contributed as well. And they were also able to immediately implement their solution. So basically they introduced the solution, they were really, really happy with the result. And then the next day they started implementing it. And after 2 days, it was already implemented into the productive system. And that was something that I found really impressive. And that also gives you a sense of the velocity that you are able to achieve specifically in a startup.
That really gives me hope because I'm such a non-techie. So
if you set, and I mean, like, it's also a matter of focus, right? Like, if you don't focus on it at the moment, I can completely understand that there is some sort of barrier there. But if you really set your mind to it, if you really want to solve a problem, if you now said, hey, I want to found this company and I need to do all these 7 things and I don't have the money to pay anybody else to do it, then you might be able to find a way to do all of these things with some solutions that might not be exactly built for doing that. But with a little bit of fantasy, with a little bit of imagination, you will be able to adjust these toolings and be able to, I think, build quite you might be surprised at how far you would come.
And the automations, and now it's a time saver, right? So now that's automatically done and you're not repeating the tasks.
Exactly. So, for example, what we did is we automatically transcribe now all calls with customers, so that everybody knows exactly what was the content of a call with a customer, and then tag these customers. Oh, this customer is unhappy. Oh, this customer asked for earlier delivery. And based on that transcript, we can already recommend actions to the agent during the call ultimately. And so are able to say, hey, this is a customer that has been unhappy, and therefore we shouldn't send them information about our referral package. But we might send them information about like how to do something with a car subscription that they might not have been aware of to ultimately increase the value that we deliver. If we know that a customer is super happy, then let's send him the referral link all the time so that he can share or she can share their happiness with all of the friends that they have.
that makes sense. I love that. And, you can take every single process of your company. If you can streamline like that, it seems daunting sometimes. Even with our business, we go into these micro sections of it and we're like, oh my gosh, who's going to do that? How are we going to do that? So I really love that you can empower the employees and different people to be creative and to do that and step out of the box to do that. So what do you think the future for Finn is? It's so hard. They say most companies go out of business in 5 years. Uber had its ups and downs where it almost crashed and burned several times. What do you think has made you sustainable so far as a company? What are some of your, secrets that you say, this is what we've done different that's made us still great and that we're still thriving? And these are some of the challenges we've had that we've overcome.
Yeah, I think one of my core things that I preach is profitability on a unit economic level. So ultimately everything, and it sounds like something that's very basic, but something that a lot of these venture-backed companies haven't been doing for the past 3, 4, 5 years specifically, where I deeply care about how much money am I earning with every additional customer. And so I, of course, understand as we are building this business and as we are growing really rapidly, we are not profitable because we are hiring more people, we are expanding quickly, we are opening new markets. But each additional customer, they need to be profitable. Otherwise, why are we adding them? Just for the sake of adding them? And so I really deeply care about the underlying unit economics of the business and understanding how you are able to ultimately, grow more. Growth being a good thing, growth actually meaning more profit and so on. And I think for many normal people, that sounds like just something that is very clear and very straightforward, but the venture world has forgotten that a little bit over the past years. And I think that is one thing that is different, and something that is really challenging when you're growing is sitting together in one room, 5 people in the beginning, very easy to keep everybody aligned, to keep everybody on the same page, to have a very clear focus, to have fun while you're working. And as you're growing the company, as you're growing more and more people, that is becoming more challenging. Making sure that everybody's on the same page, that everybody's running into the same direction, but also that everybody's having fun at what they're doing is something that is challenging, but that we pay a lot of attention to.
I like that. Do you use any AI or artificial intelligence in any of the tech that you guys do?
So, for example, in the hackathon, it was purely focused on generative AI and doing this transcription, basically also with AI, but with a speech to text encoder. And then using generative AI like ChatGPT to ultimately label the output and say, basically, this was the intent of the customer. This is the label that we should apply to the call, to the text. And so the hackathon was actually concentrated around that aspect. But I always like to remind people that for AI, you typically need a lot of data. And so in many use cases, actually using AI is not as beneficial as using kind of like simply clear rules and kind of like saying, if this, then that, can be sometimes a little bit more effective. And the most important thing is that you automate stuff, like that you start building scalable processes that are not depending on your own work and that kind of like are making your life easier. And I think that's the first hurdle. And then you can also think about how generative AI fits into that picture. And there's a ton of potential for that as well.
And what were the two applications that you were saying you used? Zapier, and what was the other one?
Make.com. And Make.com is fantastic. Like we have been using that from day one. And I'm one of the biggest advocates. It's mind-blowing how powerful this tool is. It's basically Zapier on steroids, because you can do a lot of things that you couldn't do with Zapier. You can do iterations, you can do loops, you can do error management, you can run very large companies on top of that tool. And a huge shout out to the Make.com team, as they are doing an amazing job.
That's awesome. Well, Max, tell us where people can find you and find more about you and how to sign up for Finn.
Yeah, just go to finn.com, find the perfect car that you really, really like, order a car subscription in less than 3 minutes, get it delivered to your doorstep, and then never worry about all the hassle that is typically associated with car ownership. Again.
Now, do you do sports cars and fancy cars too, or just everyday kind of cars?
We typically do everyday kind of cars. So you can find everything from a Chevy Blazer to a Jeep Grand Cherokee, Jeep Wagoneer. So like a lot of domestic manufacturers. So also a lot of the US brands, and rather on the normal car side than the luxury side.
But there's still some Audis and some other foreign cars too, or is it mostly US? Like, can you get those in the US?
Currently, it's mostly US, but we, for example, have Audis in the pipeline that look really good. And so I'm very excited about them coming online soon.
Oh, good. And this is available everywhere in the United States?
We are available on the East Coast, so basically from Virginia northwards, but we are expanding over the next 12 months to multiple other states, including Florida, California, and some more.
And Texas, you got to be in Texas. Everyone's moving to Texas.
Texas, hopefully very soon as well.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. We'll put the links up in the show notes and people can go and order their car.
Sounds great.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Max. Great having you. And remember, if you're looking to write a book and become a best-selling author, reach out to us at eliteonlinepublishing.com. And we'll see you next time. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full-spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.